Good morning. Good morning. How is everybody? I know you West Coasters are super crack of dawn. Morning, James.
Good morning. Yeah, it's early here, 7:30 in the morning. So, but it's good. I like getting up early. So,
I was gonna say you have always been an early bird. It's 7 and I'm like, I don't want to be awake right now. It depends on the day. If I've been working out, then I'm okay. But if not, it's like, I don't know.
yeah, I get it. I get it. So, we've been staying up late watching the show House. I absolutely love it. It's been good.
I love that show.
Yeah,
Love that show.
it's fun. I'm excited about today's topic as well. So,
dude, today is going to be freaking awesome. I hope everybody else is super excited. I know I am. Pulling up our comments box here. You guys, if you are having issues commenting, be sure to go ahead and click on the little instructions there. You got to give permission for Facebook to allow it to pull through. So go ahead and make sure you do that so we can see it while we're doing this live. So today, James and I were talking. He's like, you know what? We need to talk about holding listings. And I was like, we really do need to talk about that. So we're going to tell you everything there is to know. By the way, we're not going super in depth. You're not going to learn the exact way to do this today because I don't think we could cram that into 30 minutes. We're going to get you started. So I'm going to let you run with this, James, on how in the world we're going to get 15 to 20 listings and hold them at the same time. Cool. Tell us the wisdom.
So, I think it's extremely important, especially right now, to hold that 15 to 20 listings. And the main reason is because you're going to have a lot of disgruntled sellers if you haven't been upfront with them in terms of what the pricing is and where the market's at. That's the second that all that slows down or comes to a complete stop, right? Yeah. So you're just running the machine at that point in time. And my guardian father would always say, real estate can be somewhat of a roller coaster. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you have ups and downs. You get busy, then you get slow. And I was always able to kind of keep it steady, right? Most of the time is trajectory up because my systems were just getting better. My conversations were getting better. I was taking more of a sniper approach and just landing more listings that way. And my follow-up was crazy. So let's go to the two examples I have. So when in my third year of real estate, I decided I had split with a real estate partner, and I just had decided that I was only going to do 50 closings, and if I made 250 to 300 grand that year, that would be amazing, right? So that year, I ended up making $600,000 and closing over 100 homes by myself. I guess I had one buyer's agent, but he came in later. And that was just incredible to me. And I was like, holy crap. Well, I had stopped prospecting in the end of June, and I didn't pick back up the phones until October because all of a sudden I was super slow. And I'm like, okay, I'm running out of listings here. This is crazy. I get back into my Vulcan 7 and I notice I haven't been calling for a couple months. And I'm like, damn, that's insane.
Question for you, because this is something I think a lot of people miss out on. So it wasn't that you weren't necessarily calling new ones. Were you doing follow-up during that time, or was you just weren't calling new ones?
You literally I would do a little. Yeah, I would do a little bit of follow-up, but I had done so much work before that sausage bin was all the way full. So I was just turning it. I just wasn't adding more sausage ingredients, right? Yeah. At that point. So it was still pumping, and I'm like, dang, I'm really busy without having a prospect. But then there's two heavy hitters in my market that were still super busy. I'm like, how are they doing this? Well, they're converting for sale by owners, canceled and expired during the same time that I had stopped prospecting. They kept prospecting. And I was like, okay, so game plan for next year, keep prospecting while I have all this business. It's going to be really busy, but maybe I can, add a couple $100,000 to my income. Maybe I can double it, etc. So anyways, that 600 turned into, 800,000, and then that 8 turned into over $1 million for a couple of years in a row because I kept prospecting while the business was still good. Was it hard? Oh man, Kayla, it was insane. Yeah, it was super hard. So
yeah, don't let any of this fool you guys to think that it's like, oh, this is a walk in the park. It's the easiest thing you've ever done. Like things that are hard, they're worth it, right? Like the other side of that is worth it. What could you do? Let's even narrow that down for some people. What's just an extra $100,000? what would that do for your family? Like, what would that do for your future? Because I know for you, you then reinvested a lot of that money, if not all of it. So now it's working for you. So you made the million, but then you made the million, then you invested the million. So the million is making another $100,000 every year over and over. I'm using very round numbers here. I'm sure hopefully everybody picks up on that. But it's just constantly churning. So you're now stuffing over here while you're working and building this pipeline. Because you guys understand this. The pipeline looks like this, right? This is what James is explaining. Pipeline's like this. He's filling the top over and over and over. Like these are the calls up top. And then they're filtering down and down and down till money pops out the bottom. So like, yeah, you might call 300 people in a day and you might get 2 appointments set. But those 2 appointments, one of them is going to turn into a listing. So if you do that every single day, 5 days a week, you've got 5 listings at the end of the week. And you just keep going and going. So it's one of those things where once you guys catch this bug in a good way, it's a little addictive.
It is.
But I mean, as people are looking at this, I'm sure they're like, well, okay, I don't want my whole life to be making calls, going on appointments, all real estate all the time. You started to leverage though. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's a key piece where people go, I can't carry 20. There's no way. We're also imagining what real estate was the last 2 years. It's quiet, guys. If you're going to call your clients once a week to check in, but your listings, be prepared. They will sit for 4 weeks. Like that is possible. And that's normal now. So like, don't freak out about this. But that's why we're saying you have to have more than one, because you can't just stare at that one listing praying that it goes under contract. So talk a little bit about the leverage you added. I think that's a really big aspect.
Yeah. So I started getting so busy that I wasn't able to do some of the call back. Like it was hard, right? Because I had stuff I wanted to do for my personal life and with my family. And so I ended up hiring some other agents to work on my team. And I never just had buyer's agents and just had listing agents. Like the agents on my team could do whatever they wanted, and I was going to train them on both and help answer any questions. So if I set the appointment, I would have them go with me, and then we would just co-list it. And then they would get the business with me and take on the majority of that responsibility, right? My responsibility at that point would be to call once a week and check in with the client, see how things are going, make sure we're up on the up and up, and that the agent on my team was being helpful. So I was able to take pretty much all the buyers away from me. So I didn't do that anymore. I pretty much just did 2 buyers a year at that point. And that was either friends or family. And then I started co-listing the listings, which was just amazing because there was a point in 2020 where my son said, "Dad, put down your phone, put down your phone, put down your phone."
Oh, and he was young too.
Yeah, he was probably 2.5, 3.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point I realized, okay, I need to re-leverage this, right? And really get this figured out. And I did. But I look back on that time, all those years, and how busy I was now, and I'm like, how did I do that? But it was so worth it because the market's changed, and there's a lot of agents that are stressed out and a lot of people that are stressed out. But I knew that time was going to come to an end, right? Like I started when it was super slow and I was just on an uphill climb. And that's what I keep telling people right now. It's like, keep training, keep sticking to a schedule, better your skills right now, because real estate's cyclical. So as soon as it goes back up, you're going to be the front runner because there's going to be 30 to 40% less agents, most likely, because it's going to get really tough out there. So the pie's already going to get bigger that way, organically, right?
We've already in our market had 3,000 agents leave our 5,000 agents leave our MLS.
Yeah. So when you have agents leaving that way, that's an organic way of the pie growing, right? And then if you want to take control of that, you just have to hone in on your skills, make sure you're going to your trainings, make sure you're doing your coaching, and just really, really leveling up, because the time to make great money in real estate is on those upswings. There's ways to make it on the downswings too, because a lot of people get afraid, they kind of stop doing things, etc. I look back on that time and I'm like, dang, that was just amazing. Like, I'm really, really glad I did that while my kids were young, and just invest. I lived way below my means at that point in time. So,
well, and I want to point this out too, because I mean, we talk constantly. So I kind of know where you're at right now. For those of you that are like, well, I have kids, or I'm a single mom or single dad, or I don't want to put that much effort in it. Or when I say that much effort, you don't want 124 listings. That's okay. Like, we're not saying to do that. What we are saying is that's possible. It's possible. It's doable. You'll work your ass off. But here's the cool thing. If you are willing to take even just 1 year and just work your tail off, you're going to take market share. And we talked about this just the other day, right? Like, as these people are getting out of business, but you're doubling. And what I recommend, which I was talking to Gogo Beth Key the other day and Karen Head, two totally different markets, both of them were saying, it said, triple down on your business, start branding yourself, do some advertising if you have the dollars. We're not saying you have to go spend a bunch of money, but this is the time where when people are running away and people are hesitant and people are going, there's not enough, there's actually going to become more and a plethora of business. I know I've been looking at it, watching the expires and FSBOs popping up. Boom, boom, boom. They are coming off the market left and right. Price reductions. It's an opportunity for us to step in. And before you guys say, oh, well, they came off because it just can't sell or what have you. Both me and James built our businesses on expired listings. And in most cases, we were relisting them at least for me, almost at the same price that it was listed for, just doing it the right way. Putting it
we
out
just did that.
Having like proper conversation.
Yeah, we just did that. We just got a canceled listing and the agent had a crummy description, they had crummy photos, like all this stuff. We relisted it for the same price and sold it that same day. Like, it still happens because I was like, this is a really good price. Like, this is
right.
Yeah. And the client was like, well, my lender sent me this thing and said that it was closer to 400,000. And I was like, whoa, we're not going higher than what you're already at. If you haven't sold at that price, what makes you think we can make some changes and try it at the current price? Because I really did feel like it was priced correctly, right?
Yeah.
And we relisted it and sold it in that same day. And that was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like
this
this
still happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I carried that conversation with that seller the entire time, right? And then I sent my team member on the listing appointment. They got it, listed it, and that's leverage, right? At this point in my game, I can do that, set the appointment, leverage it, or go with them, get the listing, and it's handled at that point in time. So
I was gonna say, I've done that with some of my team members as well, where it's okay, I've already got plenty that I'm working on, or I'm headed out. I know I'm going to be absent for part of it, and it's just not dealing with as many of the daily calls. So it's okay, we're going to go together, we're going to get it together, we're going to split it. You manage the phone calls and that I would call it client attention, so make sure they're getting what they need. Transaction order, make sure it goes through. But if you guys are not to that stage yet, like, seriously, don't fret over it. Here would be my suggestion, because I know a lot of people get worried, like, well, I can't give that same level of service if I have that many people. One, you are not going to be closing 20 a week. All right. Like, I know when people think, oh, I'm carrying 15 to 20 listings, that they're going to go boom, boom, boom. Because that's where we were at. You put it up on a Friday, it's already under contract by Friday night, if not Saturday morning. And you're like banging people off with a stick so you could get all the rest of the showings in by Sunday. So that's not where we're at. You're not going to have these crazy weekends of, 60 showings and 40 offers. What you will have is setting that precedent for your clients to say, okay, it's going to take X number of days to potentially get this under contract. Like, set that up for them and make sure they know they're going to call from you on Monday and Friday. Hey, here's what we saw that happened throughout the weekend. Here was the traffic. Here's what happened on, going into the weekend and what happened this week, just so you're staying in contact. Now, if you have a transaction coordinator, this is a great opportunity to get them involved for support on this. So, for example, when I first started getting busier, I got an executive assistant. He would call every day all of our clients between 3 and 4 p.m. to let them know what's going on. Most of them didn't want to call that many times, so we'd shoot them a text or we'd drop it down to twice a week. But it was making sure they knew we were there. Like, I'm sure you hear this all the time. One of the complaints we always heard going to expireds, my agent never called me. Like, literally signed them in the yard and they disappeared for 6 weeks and I don't know where the hell they went.
Yep.
We don't want to do that. All right. Like, it's going to be on for 4 to 5 weeks. Sometimes that's going to happen. You guys, I know, obviously you're carrying some listings, like that's happening right now, but you're consistently touching base. And that's the biggest thing you guys have to understand. Keep touching base, just because you drop a listing, meaning they decide not to sell anymore, it's not always you. All right. Like James just said, like sometimes the pricing doesn't work out. They got tired of it, what have you. But the cool thing is we're not tied to only that person's outcome. I mean, I'll raise my hand. Even especially early on, if a listing fell out, I was freaking out. Right. I was like, shit, like in my mind, I already spent that money on whatever it might have been. And when it didn't happen, it was terrifying. Once I started getting multiples, sometimes I'd have to let clients go. Like, it sounds bad, but I've had to tell a client, I'm sorry, this is not working out. I'm going to pull my listing. You can go find someone else. I release you, because the relationship wasn't working. So with that, though, that doesn't make you any lesser of an agent, right? We tend to like try to pride ourselves on, I've sold every listing I've ever listed. I've sold most of the listings I've ever listed. Not all of them gone through, and that's okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about two things. The first one I feel like is really important is the most common thing that I heard from canceled and expireds is that my agent never called, right? Never followed up. I didn't know what was going on. So I always included that in my prospecting time, that Wednesdays and Thursdays is when I was going to call those clients. And the reason it was Wednesdays and Thursdays is because Mondays were too busy. Tuesdays, I was just kind of getting in the flow. By Wednesday, Thursday, I had everything really under control at that point. And I didn't want to call on Friday because I didn't want to have to deal with anything that was going to pop up, right? Like, hey, could you do an open house, or, or could we do this? Could we do that? So I just wanted to take care of all those issues before the weekend happened. That way they felt like they were touched. And so I included that. And now my team does that as well. So you want to make sure that you're including that in your calendar, that follow-up time with your current clients, because they're going to give you referrals, and referrals are way easier to convert. They're generally way easier to sell than going after cancel, expired, and for sale by owners or website leads. Because even with your website leads, you're competing with a lot of agents at that time. That's why I always did neighborhood calling too. Picked 2 neighborhoods and called through it, prospected it, because usually I was the only person and I would build a rapport, and then it was just as easy as going after a referral at that point in time. The second thing I wanted to say is, like, 15 to 20 listings is very manageable, and it's super easy, and you can still live a really good life, because as long as you hire a transaction coordinator and then you have like a part-time assistant or somebody helping you, or like a buyer's agent, you're still going to make great money and you're still going to have a great life, but you're just going to be in more control of what your income is at the end of the year then. And you're not going to stress out about, dang, I just lost a listing, or, dang, my only escrow fell out. Because if you're carrying 15 to 20 listings, you're probably carrying 5 to 10 escrows at that point in time too. So I have a buddy right now, he's going through some stuff, and he has, like, with some family stuff, and then he has no escrows right now, no listings, and I'm like, dang, dude, you're 90 days out from getting paid, most likely. Because if you get a buyer, most likely they're going to take about 30 days to buy, and you have the 45-day closing, so 60 days, let's say, at the worst. But I just never wanted to be in that spot.
No. And we've all been there at some point. Like, I've had my, even like a couple of years ago, it was like, oh, I haven't prospected in months and I have nothing in the pipeline, working on another project. I was like, oh, okay. Now here's the interesting thing, because you can get down on yourself for that. And you've done it too. You just talked about it. You're like, hey, where's all my listings at? Like, why am I coming down to the bottom of my pipeline? And it's because, things got busier working on other stuff. Here's the coolest thing about this. You can pick it up at any time. And as long as you're consistent with it, I bounced right back. 2 months later, I'm like, okay, cool. Boom, 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 boom. Like, no problem. We had it going. And here's the big thing. You're not going to get every single one. So when you're setting these appointments, do not count those chickens, right? Like, I think we all I get in my head sometimes about, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this listing, and you get out there, they're completely unreasonable. They want $1 million for a $400,000 house. They want to talk to you about their divorce, and you're just like, dude, I don't care. Like, just hear me out. This is where your house is at. So you're not going to get all of them, and that's okay. That this is why we make 300 to 400 calls a day to get 2 appointments, to get 1 listing for 5 a week, and of those 5, 3 are going to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just start doing the breakdown in your mind. So when it like starts to happen, you're going, oh no, this is normal. Like this is totally normal for me to have gotten this amount. And I want to add to that, because this is another, I've heard this from people that I've coached, where they're like, well, I can't afford an assistant. I can't afford a transaction coordinator. What I will tell you is, if you want to keep, now James is a beast. And at the time when he was first starting, he didn't have little ones when he was really cranking this out to start with, right? So life was different. Yeah. So with that, I was coached that you need a certain number of transactions before you should get an assistant. Mm-hmm. Here is my suggestion. You need to figure out the lifestyle you want and plan around that. Because for me, I realized, okay, I don't want to be up till 1 o'clock in the morning inputting listings. Because when I was doing it, I wanted to do it correctly, right? We don't want to half-ass that part. You want to have the proper description, the proper photos, the proper layout. You don't want to forget to put a school district in there, right? Or put the wrong one, because it's going to completely for them for the entire year. You're hiring them every 2 weeks. And what that means is, as that 2 weeks comes up, how do they do? Is it working out? If it's not, they got to go, and that's okay. They might just not be the best fit for you. What I will also say, for me, transaction coordination was the biggest thing that I needed help with. The biggest thing. Someone to call the photographer, call all the people, do all the things, so I could focus on setting the appointment, going on the listing, and maybe still have a little bit of a life. Like that was my goal, right? So once I added the transaction coordinator, which you guys, you don't have to hire someone full time. You can hire them per transaction onto your, just you and them. Or there's a ton of transaction coordination businesses out there that's all they do. Like they literally just do transaction coordination, whether it's overseas or locally. Go start jumping onto your local real estate page and Facebook, start asking around. There are a ton of businesses. I know there's like 2 or 3 here in Charlotte that I just know of off the top of my head that can assist you. And they're only charging between $400 and $600 per transaction when they close. So that's the thing. Like, don't be paying money for something that you're not going to get. Because I'm sure people are thinking this, like, well, I got to pay for photos, I got to pay for signs, I got to pay for lot boxes for something that's not going to close. All those things you can reuse except for photos. Yeah. And you can reuse them for marketing if you really wanted to, right? Because you own the photos. So the only thing that you're really spending, you won't be reimbursed, is about $150 for photos. Yeah. Everything else is either reusable or you pay at the end. Yep. So don't worry about that. If you want time, you don't have to be the badass, like that you do everything. I'm guilty of that. I'm like, no, I do all the things myself. Start leverage early. It's okay. Like you can do that. No one's saying you can't do that.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I just want to prospect and go on appointments and manage my team, right? So I don't want to do all that other stuff. There's people, if you train them, they're better than you at that, right? So, yeah, I totally believe that. So to boil this all down, you need to stick to your daily schedule. If you have questions about the daily schedule, again, send a DM to myself or Kayla, and we'll all email that over to you for free, obviously. And then, it's all about mastering your daily schedule. If you control your schedule, you control your business by far, and you control your mental state also. That's super important to know. That was the biggest realization for me, is like, I always thought, dang, I got to stick to the schedule. Like, I'm not as free as I thought I would be. But you're more free, because you're not letting other people dictate what your schedule is. You're dictating what it is, what you want to commit to. And you have more peace of mind because you know that your income is coming in, you know? So yes, I think that's a huge thing. Yep.
Love that. Love that. And what I'm going to give you guys, I love the chats coming in. People definitely want that daily schedule. I'm going to drop the main email address in here. If you guys would do us a favor, because I don't want to miss anybody in the chat that dropped their email, because I know it's going to happen. Some people are watching live and some we're watching the recorded. Go ahead and be sure to email us at mastersinrealestatecoaching@gmail.com. And I said at Masters in Real Estate, but mastersinrealestatecoaching@gmail.com. When that changes up, we will go ahead and let you know. But that will be a really good spot for us to just grab everybody and then send you all the guide on that. And this has been awesome. I know I took notes, which, by the way, guys, I coach. I still take notes. Why? Because you never stop learning. So take notes, rewatch this. I know it's something that I apply, but I need to hear over and over and over again.
Yep. It's amazing. So follow that daily schedule. You follow the daily schedule, you'll have a life that's more full of what you want to do, and your income more full as well. So get to that dang daily schedule.
Love it. I love it. Well, hey, thank you for your insights, and
Absolutely.
hopefully you guys get out there and apply it. I'd love to see your guys' feedback. Drop it in the chat below, and be sure to drop some insight into the group. As you guys know, we are building this group right now, and guess what? What happens when you build things? It takes time, and it takes mistakes, and it takes all the things, but we want to hear what you guys have to say. Successes, failures, things that you've learned, tools that you use. We're here to help each other grow and take market share. So thank you for joining us for Coffee and Contracts, and we will catch you guys next Monday.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.